Wow, what a result for Ireland, what an occasion at the Stade de France, what a game of rugby. Both teams immense, the intensity ridiculous, the physicality as well, and I do wonder whether this will be a game we'll see again at the end of October for the World Cup final, because Ireland and the Springboks, make no mistake about it, are the real deal and are both incredibly good rugby teams. But tonight, heading out into the Parisian night, it is the Irish fans that are the happiest. So that's what I'm getting into in this video. Drop a comment down below. What did you make of the game? And also importantly, what do you make of these two teams now heading into the rest of the World Cup? Because I think even though Ireland were the victors, and that is significant, in particular for Andy Farrell's side, I think South Africa will still be confident that they can do something pretty special at this World Cup. So comment down below, like the video, and subscribe to the channel as well. So I almost don't know where to start with this game. As it got towards the end of it, I was there thinking, how do I sum this up? It's been so good, it's been back and forth. There were opportunities for both teams to win it, and in the end, 13-8, Ireland got the job done. And early on in the game, I felt like both teams were almost trying to land haymakers straight away. Ireland getting penalties, kicking for the corner. They're not able to win their first 4 lineouts. You wondered if that would be a missed opportunity. It felt like both teams were just absolutely gunning for it in the first 10 or 15 minutes. But then the game settled down a little bit, not in terms of the intensity or the atmosphere, but just in terms of perhaps the general flow of it. And it felt significant tonight. Being here in the Stade de France, it felt like a really meaningful moment from an Irish perspective. And I guess the best way I can explain that is those of you that watched my video from Twickenham before the World Cup, and the Springboks did a job on the All Blacks, and I said after that it felt like a result that the Springboks needed almost more at that moment. There was this wave of energy and emotion and momentum behind them on that night, and there was a little bit of that again here tonight in the Stade de France. And there seemed to me like there were more Irish fans in attendance. It felt like they made more of the noise, and you kind of felt like for Ireland, this was their World Cup properly starting. And not only was it their excuse me, losing my voice from the game. Not only was it their World Cup properly starting, but it was also their World Cup credentials really being laid out there for everyone to see. And I know that we've already seen them beat the All Blacks away from home and win a Six Nations and a Grand Slam and be the #1 team in the world. But I mean, in terms of this tournament and against one of the best sides, who South Africa are very, very good, it just felt like that moment where Ireland, I think, will steadily continue to and start to believe even more that the dream of winning a World Cup for that small nation where rugby isn't even the #1 sport is well and truly alive. I guess that's what I mean by the fact that it felt like a moment and it felt really significant from an Irish point of view. However, the flip side of that is the Springboks, and I think that South Africa will look back on that game and think there were a number of missed opportunities, and there were for Ireland as well. Ireland as well will feel they should have been more clinical, particularly in the first half. But I think there's a part of South Africa that will look back at that, kind of say, all right, fair enough, well played Ireland, we'll see you at the end of October and we'll see you in a World Cup final, because we think we know what we can do differently to make sure we beat you next time. I genuinely believe in that Springbok dressing room, they'll be saying, boys, pretty disappointing there. We had an opportunity to win that game, but we know we can beat these boys. And from an Irish perspective, it'll be slaps on the back, happy days, but equally they know that they can get better as well. So both teams fascinatingly poised heading into the rest of this World Cup. But let's get to the fact that South Africa had other opportunities to win it. Marnie Libbok penalty missed. Faf de Klerk penalty missed as well. And I know with Marnie Libbok, look, Sia Khaleesi is brilliant in the press conference when he stuck up for his fly half. It was a brilliant example of his captaincy. But there is a reason there is a conversation around Marnie Libbok, and I thought that was a brilliant example of why. Not an easy penalty, but the sort of penalty in a really tight knockout game, which I know this is a pool game, but I think in terms of the atmosphere and in terms of the feel of the game, it was as close to a knockout game as you're probably going to get. You need someone that steps up and knocks over that penalty. Ireland were leading 10-8. It would have put South Africa in the lead by a point. It might have changed the complexion of the closing stages of that game. So it's not a knock on Libbok. I think he's brilliant. I love what he brings to this Springbok team. I love what he's brought to the team since he's been in it more regularly this year in terms of their attacking game and what he's like with ball in hand. But, and I suppose this is a question really for the Springbok fans, when the game's on the line, when the tension is at its highest, when you get to those most pressurised moments. Is Marnie Livok the man to have at fly half? As I say again, let me reiterate, it's not a dig at him, it's just a reality of maybe where his goal kicking is in comparison, for example, with someone like Andre Pollard. That's a conversation that I think will rumble on, and certainly is a worthwhile one for the Springboks in this World Cup. Let's get on to a couple of players, because I have to mention Bundee Aki. He has arguably been the best player of the World Cup so far. What's he scored? 4 tries. Didn't score tonight, but he got man of the match. His ball carrying was excellent. He's good over the breakdown. He had a really important turnover towards the end of this game as well. He is in brilliant form and sensational for Ireland. In terms of the Springboks, I actually wanted to give a mention to Damien Willemse. I think he is quickly becoming an incredibly good 15. A really, really good fullback. I know that he can play 10 and 12 as well, so you've also got that kind of playmaker in him, but his feet are brilliant in a team that already has Arendse and Kolbe and players like that. He's almost the complete package, isn't he? I think he's going to have an excellent international career in the 15 jersey for the Boks. There's probably a number of others that I could go into, but let's look at the context of this as a whole. Ireland now in a great position to top this group. Probably means they're going to end up playing the All Blacks. South Africa could set themselves up a quarter-final against the French, who obviously are sweating on the fitness of Antoine Dupont. So I think South Africa will be confident. In fact, both of these teams will be confident that they will be back here in the World Cup final, because having watched it tonight, there were moments, and I turned to Tim from Egg Chasers next to me and I just said, I can't wait for the World Cup final. If this is what it's like for this game, imagine what it's going to be like when you get to a final, when it's a World Cup final, that sort of atmosphere. You could feel the significance of it from Ireland. They've never come into a World Cup with this sort of team or in this sort of form, and I think tonight belonged to them, obviously in terms of the result, but the significance of that result is the belief it will breathe into those aspirations of winning a World Cup. Andy Farrell will be absolutely delighted. Their line-out wasn't even very good, as I think I've mentioned already. Their scrum started to creak in that second half as well, but they were able to get themselves over the line and get the job done. I think that's probably pretty much everything that I wanted to mention. I've mentioned the missed penalties, haven't I? It was more than that for South Africa. It wasn't just the missed penalties were the reason they lost the game. They had opportunities late on, the driving maul that went to ground, which was the last play of the game. They had plenty of phases and opportunities in the second half, other than the one try they scored, but overall they weren't able to take. And I think Ireland will probably feel the same maybe for some of those periods in the first half, and I can even think of some in the second half where, over to my right as I'm looking at it, they had a line out down there which they overthrew. So there were opportunities in this game, but it was awesome. It was a brilliant occasion. So I think that's it from me. I'm going to head out and speak to some of the fans, see what they're saying. But drop a comment down below. What did you make of it? And remember, what do you make of these two teams now? Do you think we'll be seeing them in the World Cup final? I think there's a great chance of that. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. But I'll see you in the next one.